Angel Reese didn't just stir the pot this time, she flipped the entire table, lit it on fire, and dared the league to look away. Calling yourself the Michael Jordan of women's basketball is already a headline-grabbing statement, but doing it right as your former team quietly ships you out for what many fans are calling pocket change turns that confidence into controversy overnight. The Chicago Sky didn't trade a bench player, they didn't offload a declining veteran, they moved a 23-year-old, two-time All-Star who dominated the boards like a machine. And what did they get back? 2 late first-round picks and a second-round swap. No proven star, no immediate help, no blockbuster return. That's not just a trade, that's a message. Around the league, eyebrows shot up instantly. Fans mocked it as a bargain bin deal, analysts called it a fleece, and insiders started asking the real question: what was happening behind the scenes that made Chicago willing to take so little? Because teams don't just give away production like that unless something deeper is broken. Then came the explanation, and suddenly it all started to make sense. That infamous detrimental to the team label wasn't just a punishment, it was a warning shot. Reese didn't just voice concerns internally, she took them public, openly challenging the roster, demanding better talent, and essentially putting the organization on blast. That's not leadership, that's gasoline on a fire. And Chicago responded in the coldest way possible: a suspension, a paper trail, and eventually, the exit door. But the drama didn't start there. It had been building for months, maybe longer. Comments about veterans rubbed people the wrong way, especially when a respected figure like Courtney Vandersloot was indirectly dismissed as too old to rely on. That's the kind of statement that echoes through a locker room and fractures trust instantly. Then came the whispers about internal tension, teammates frustrated, chemistry unraveling, younger players uncomfortable. Situations like Camila Cardoso reportedly distancing herself only fueled the narrative that something was off. This wasn't just competitive fire anymore, it was becoming a pattern. And in professional sports, patterns are what front offices fear most. Add in the on-court controversies, flagrant fouls, emotional outbursts, post-game narratives that didn't always match the footage, and the gap between perception and reality started to widen. When availability became inconsistent late in the season, with injury explanations clashing against public appearances that told a different story, skepticism turned into certainty. By that point, Chicago wasn't just evaluating stats, they were evaluating sustainability. And their conclusion was brutal. The cost of managing everything around Reese had started to outweigh the undeniable numbers she produced. So they made the move, not because she couldn't play, but because they no longer believed she fit. And that's a far harsher judgment than any stat line could ever deliver. Now she lands in Atlanta, and on paper, it looks like a power move, but dig deeper, and the cracks are already visible. The Atlanta Dream just added the league's top rebounder to a frontcourt that was already crowded, already heavy, already struggling with mobility and spacing. Pairing Reese with interior players who operate in the same areas doesn't magically create dominance, it creates congestion. And in today's game, congestion kills offense. While Atlanta stacks bodies in the paint, teams like the Indiana Fever are spreading the floor, pushing tempo, and forcing defenses into impossible choices. With Caitlin Clark orchestrating, every possession becomes a chess match that punishes slow rotations and clogged lanes. Aaliyah Boston draws attention inside, Kelsey Mitchell slices through defenses off the ball, shooters stay ready on the perimeter. Atlanta's size advantage starts to look like a liability. Because if you can't defend the perimeter, if you can't switch, if you can't close out fast enough, you're not controlling the game, you're chasing it. Reese's strengths are real, no doubt. Her rebounding is elite, relentless, almost defiant in how she attacks the glass. But the modern game demands more than dominance in one area. When defenders don't respect your range, when spacing collapses every time you touch the ball outside the paint, it limits everyone around you. Guards lose driving lanes, shooters lose clean looks, and the offense tightens until it becomes predictable. That's the challenge Atlanta now faces, integrating a high-usage rebounder into a system that already needed more space, not less. Meanwhile, Indiana isn't rebuilding, they're refining. Clark's return doesn't reset the team, it elevates one that already learned how to function without her. That's a dangerous combination. Chemistry, confidence, and clarity of roles, things Atlanta is still figuring out, are already established there. And in high-stakes matchups, those details decide everything. Off the court, the reaction has been just as intense. Social media exploded the moment the trade dropped, with fans split between excitement and skepticism. Jersey sales surged, hype videos flooded timelines, but questions lingered beneath the surface. Why was the price so low? Why didn't more teams push harder? What did Chicago see that others might have missed? Those questions don't just disappear, they follow a player, shaping every performance, every headline, every narrative moving forward. And Reese's own reaction only added fuel to the fire. Reports of frustration, claims of being undervalued, even whispers that she sees herself as bigger than the franchise that let her go, it all paints the picture of someone determined to prove a point, but also someone carrying a chip so large it risks becoming a burden. Because in this league, and here's where the story stops being just drama and turns into a full-blown pressure cooker, because now every single move Angel Reese makes in Atlanta is going to be dissected, replayed, and judged under a microscope that never turns off. There's no easing into this situation, no quiet adjustment period, no let's see how it goes. The moment she steps on the floor, the narrative is already written in bold letters, prove Chicago wrong or confirm everything they feared. That's the reality of being traded the way she was. Not for a haul, not in a blockbuster deal, but in a move that screamed urgency from the front office, like they needed out fast. And when a franchise reaches that point with a player of her caliber, the league notices. Teammates notice. Opponents notice. They don't just see the highlights anymore, they see the questions. Can she adapt? Can she fit into a structured system without bending it around herself? Can she elevate a locker room instead of dominating it? Because talent has never been the issue. Effort has never been the issue. The issue is whether everything else that comes with her game amplifies a team, or slowly pulls it apart. Atlanta is betting they can manage that balance, but that's a dangerous gamble when the stakes are this high. You're not plugging her into a rebuilding roster where mistakes can be absorbed, you're inserting her into a team that already has expectations, already has established roles, already has players who need space, rhythm, and clarity to succeed. And if that balance tilts even slightly in the wrong direction, things won't just stall, they'll unravel quickly. Because chemistry in professional sports isn't fragile, it's volatile. One misstep, one miscommunication, one ego clash, and suddenly what looked like a contender starts looking confused, disconnected, and inconsistent. And the worst part? When that happens, it's almost impossible to hide. Fans see it in body language, analysts break it down frame by frame, and social media turns every moment into a narrative that spreads faster than the truth can catch up. At the same time, the spotlight on the rivalry angle is only getting brighter, because this isn't just about Atlanta figuring itself out, it's about how they stack up against a team that already knows exactly who they are. The Indiana Fever aren't walking into this season with uncertainty, they're walking in with identity. They've built a system that thrives on movement, spacing, and relentless pressure, and with Caitlin Clark running the engine, that system doesn't just function, it overwhelms. Every possession forces defenses into impossible decisions, every rotation is tested, every hesitation punished. And that's where the contrast becomes impossible to ignore. While Atlanta is trying to figure out how to distribute minutes between multiple interior players who operate in the same space, Indiana is stretching the floor, creating angles, forcing mismatches, and dictating tempo. It's not just a stylistic difference, it's a philosophical one. One team is trying to fit pieces together, the other has already built something cohesive. And in a league where margins are razor-thin, cohesion wins more often than raw talent. That's why the matchups between these two teams